So our Torah portion this Shabbat opens with the command regarding the creation of olive oil to be used in the lighting of the menorah in the temple. The Torah says the following: "You shall further instruct the Israelites to bring you clear oil of beaten olives for lighting, for kindling lamps regularly. Aaron and his son shall set them up in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain which is over the ark of the pact, to burn from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a dew from the Israelites for all time throughout the ages." The commentators have had a field day with those couple of verses, in part because there's a lot of extraneous language. And the rabbis who believed that every word of the Torah had to have inherent meaning were deeply, deeply bothered by the superfluity of terms. And amongst the extras, they identified the following. Right? So we're told that the olive oil is to be used for kindling lamps in the tent of meeting. Right? On one level, I almost don't need to say in the tent of meeting, because the entire structure of last week's parasha and the rest of this week's parasha is all about the creation of the Mishkan, of the sacred space in which everything is done. So right there, they're going like, okay, sort of, maybe. And then it goes, michutz la parochet, outside of the curtain, which is in front of the pact. I want you to visualize a rectangular space for a moment, separated by a curtain. Right? Behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz. Oh, no, sorry, wrong story. Behind the curtain is the ark. It's sort of set off. In front of the curtain, on one side is the table of showbread, on the other side is the menorah. So on one level, since it's pretty obvious where you would do the lighting, i.e. in the thing that is designed for lighting, why am I bothering to tell you in front of the curtain? Like if I said to you, come into this room and turn on the lights, where would you go? You'd go to the light switch and you'd turn on the lights. If I said to you, when Hanukkah comes, you need to light one light on the first night and two on the second, do I have to tell you, put them in the Chanukiah, put them in the menorah? Or would you say to me, Rabbi, come on, how dumb do you think we are that you need to tell us to put the candles or the lights in the Chanukiah? Duh. So the rabbis are going like, why is this here? And I want to suggest to you an answer put forward by Rabbi Yosef Pasnowski, who was born in Poland in 1875 and is caught up in the events of the Shoah during World War II and dies in 1942. But he too is intrigued by this, and he says, how do we understand these verses in a more contemporary idiom, in a way that applies not just to our ancestors in the past, but that applies to each of us today? And he says the following: B'leiv kol Yehudi tzarich lidlok ner tamid, ner Elohim. That each person needs to kindle within themselves a flame of God. The ner tamid, this perpetual light that is here spoken of as a function of the Mishkan, as a function of the tabernacle and later the temple in Jerusalem, very nice, but he transfers all of that to the human being. What does it mean to kindle a flame of God within us? And how do we go about it? It's about, he suggests as he goes on, how do we kindle a passion for God and Jewishness in our lives? What are the things that we have to do? And he sort of reflects on the process of the previous verse, namely, the process of creating pure olive oil. We talk about pure olive oil a lot around Hanukkah and the story of the Maccabees, and they only found the one vial, and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, very sweet, very nice. But, well, beyond it, what made it pure? Well, you go into the grocery store, and you buy Ivu, extra virgin olive oil. Farvus? Why do you want Ivu? Why not just buy regular old olive oil? Why does it taste better? Okay, fair enough, all right. If next time you're in the store, look at regular olive oil next to extra virgin olive oil, and you will notice that the colors are different. There's a clarity to the Ivu that's not in the other. There's a thinness almost, because more of the olivey part has been removed. There's less residue. The lees are precipitated out even more. They're strained. In the ancient world, when it came time to make olive oil, you would take the olives and you would crush them in like a millstone kind of thing, and whatever ran off, ran off. Olives that were used in the temple were put into a mortar and crushed with a pestle, and then they were strained, and they were strained again. The entire process was designed to release the oil without capturing the dregs. And so he says, that's part of the process for us as individuals, that we need to go about a process of purifying ourselves. And the mitzvot are the vehicle by which we do that. The performance of divine expectations helps us get to a better, purer version of ourselves. But he's not done yet, because he's also bothered by the redundancy of, so fine, you told me in the tent of meeting, and you told me in front of the curtain. I already figured out where I'm supposed to be. Why in front of the curtain? Why outside? Why does it use the term michutz, outside? What's the tabernacle? What's the sanctuary? Sacred space. Theoretically, at least, while we're here, engaged in prayer, engaged in study, theoretically, we're not going to commit a lot of sins while we're here. Whether we're here for study, whether we're here for prayer, whether we're here for some other sacred task, our purpose is directed, and therefore we should be okay. And he's going, the reason the text emphasizes michutz laparochet, outside, is that you're supposed to take the Yiddishkeit that you acquire within the sacred space out into the real world. That how you engage with others in the real world, in business, in your regular interactions with people in the store and on the street, in your interpersonal relationships, all of that should reflect the same kind of sanctity that comes kind of easily when we're here focused on sacred tasks. Praying, when we're all here studying, It's easy. And he says the essence of the Torah here is not just what we do in sacred space, but what we take with us from sacred space into our lives and into the world. And that is the process not only of refining of ourselves, but of refining the world. Chaverim, let me invite you to turn back to your Sidurim. We rise as able for Aleinu.